Mm. All right, hello and welcome, my friends. This is my talk Power BI, and I'm just going to make sure that the tech is working. No fun if nobody can see you or hear you. Perfect. Okay. Looks like we're good. So, Juan, hello and welcome, my friend. I'm always tempted to say good morning. It is good morning for me. I'm here in Seattle, Washington, in the backyard of Microsoft. So I'm a Microsoft MVP, Power BI bestselling author, and I have dedicated my life, dedicated myself to spreading the message of Power BI as far and wide as I can. This is something I do. I try to do it every Friday, 9 a.m. Pacific time, and here I am. So what I'm going to do is kick it off with a topic, and then if you're hanging out with me, you can ask questions. If you're catching a replay, leave your questions in the comments and I'll get to them. So in fact, my kickoff topic comes from a comment from last video. So this was Ed Reed talking about security. So I want to start there. And he talked about security kind of at a large setting, like large scale. Let me find my Power BI. Actually, let's just. So I'm going to start at the other end. I'm going to start at where you're, kind of a small fish in the pond. It's okay to be small fish in the pond. Sometime, well, actually, all the big fish in the pond started by being a small fish. So that's perfectly okay. So it's possible that you're starting out just by in Power BI Desktop. And that's a great place to start. It's a free download. And you have a file. You have a file, which is a great analytical tool. You can use it to kind of pull data in, slice and dice it, and analyze it. But then comes the sharing part, and that's where really the security comes in, right? I mean, if you're the only person looking at it, not much need for security. So you have something built here, it's data set, it's pulling in some resources, and now you want to share it. And of course, well, the typical way to share it is by hitting the publish button, which is going to put it up on powerbi.com. Now, this sometimes it throws people off, like, oh, publish, so now it's available to everybody. Not quite. This puts it up in your private area. We'll talk more about that. But again, kind of talking about the small fish, sometimes where people start is they just share the PBIX file itself. So they kind of treat it as an XLSX file, an Excel file. I don't recommend that. I mean, that's not really the new world. It's kind of the old clunky world where you had files flying around everywhere. And I remember that question that I used to get, oh, Avi, did you update the report? Oh, did you send me the updated report? And I was like, yeah, I sent it to you last night. And he, whoever the person was, they would pull it up like, but I don't see it. I'm like, oh, yeah, the wrong version. All of that stuff, all of that craziness. Let's put that behind us, shall we? Right? So that's not the point. Really, you want to look to the new age, which is being able to publish this to either powerbi.com or, of course, the on-premise option is Power BI Report Server. So now if I hit this publish button, it's going to ask me if you have, so typically your My Workspace, that's where you would start, right? So we're going to work our way up and start going more complex. So you're going to publish it to My Workspace, and where is My Workspace? Here it is. So My Workspace, and again, this is your workspace, this is your area, not shared with anybody else yet, right? So this is your area, you control it. So when you publish it, still it's only you who can see it. Now it's up on the web, so that's great. You can check it using a browser, you can check it using a mobile device. Power BI has apps for both iOS, Android, and Windows Phone, right? But from here, you can share things as well. So you can go to your dashboard and click the share button right there. and you can type in any person you want to share it to. Now, this can be within the organization or outside. I would assume the typical scenarios are within the organization. Now, let me just stop you here, because for this, you're going to have a pro license. Otherwise, if you're trying to share, it's going to prompt you, hey, you need a pro license. It's $10 per month, best money you would ever spend. Believe me. All right. So you can share with somebody, and once you've shared with them, you can also kind of check later on. Notice this is the share tab, this is the access tab, they're right there, and I access them. I invoke them by clicking on the share button on the dashboard. So dashboard is pretty much the unit of sharing. We'll talk about other ways of sharing. We're going to work our way up in complexity. So that's the unit of sharing, and that's that's security. We're talking about sharing, security, kind of go hand in hand. So you control who you share it with, and then you can review who has access. You can revoke their access. You can change access. And there's another option here, which is on, I believe, by default, which is you share it with somebody, and you can say, allow them to reshare. So yeah, I mean, you want something to go viral within your organization, and it's pretty open within your organization at least, and yeah, go ahead and share it with somebody in your organization, and yeah, they can reshare it. You can uncheck that. Later, you can also go in and kind of change that. It's like, no, that person shared it with Will, whom I don't like, so I'm going to revoke their access to share, whatever. So you totally control it. The best analogy I use is this is pretty similar to, kind of those file sharing. So OneDrive, Dropbox, things like that. So it kind of works like that, kind of feels like that. So yeah, I mean, a lot of people are used to that. I was pretty used to that. Now there are a few other sharing options as well. So by the way, if something is shared with you, it's going to end up here. Well, apparently nobody loves me, but yeah, you get the idea. Now, I'm going to switch gears here, and this is a pro feature again, app workspaces. I'm going to talk about that. So they work a little differently. In a way, they kind of give you a sandbox, right? So the first use would be that you create an app workspace. Let's see what it looks like. And yeah, you kind of name it. And oh gosh, so somebody the other day was asking me that I can't change whether it's private or public. It's odd. It seems that, so you see the setting here. I don't think I've ever created a public app workspace yet, but I'm sure there would be valid scenarios where that makes sense. So you can create it public or private. Great. So it seems that's chosen at the time of creation. When we went back to Workspaces, I didn't find a way to change it. So mostly private, I think, is what you would want to be. You would want to control the content. Give it a name. Right, great. And then this is key. Whether you want to, everybody who's going to be a member, whom you're going to add as a member right here. So again, I'm going to add my friend John. And you can add them, right? So you can have a lot of members. Maybe some of them can be admins. Really, right? So, and this is the key one: can members edit or can members view? So let's talk about that. I think the first step you're going to take in your journey is you're going to use this: members can edit, because this is what's going to happen in your journey. Firstly, you started working in Power BI, and you're working on these Power BI desktop files and do some awesome stuff. But of course, word gets around, you're uber popular now, and yeah, others are asking you a secret, and you're happy to share. This is a new world. This is not that data dungeon world I talk about where you're like, oh, I'm going to keep all my secrets to myself. No, your success lies in empowering others, my friend. That's why it's called Power BI. It's about empowerment. Woo! So you happily teach them, but now you have a few different authors. And there are always going to be fewer authors and many consumers. Now, consumers can be creating their own reports and all this stuff. What I'm talking about is building the model, cleaning, shaping, transforming data before you bring it in the query editor, defining relationships, defining DAX, that sort of stuff. So those are now not just one, now it's a few people. And on some projects, you're going to have to collaborate with somebody else. That's where this comes in. So you say, hey, members can edit. So you add your friend whom you've been working with. And now you have this. So I'm not going to create a new one. So I'm just going to go, I don't know, scratch. Nothing in scratch. Let's go to demo. And now you're in it together in this shared workspace, and you can work together. Now you're allowed to take a vacation. Hey, is that nice? So now he can, kind of upload a data set in this workspace. So now let's go back to the Power BI. And I didn't want to talk about it then, but now I can. So when I said publish to Power BI, and when you click this button, notice that you can publish to my workspace, which is if, hey, this is kind of my report, this is my thing. But if you're in a shared workspace with somebody else, you're working together, you open the file, you make an update, they open the file, they make an update. You can keep the PBIX file in a shared location. Sometimes I've seen people, they just make the protocol that you have to download the file from here, which I can't find the option now, but I know it's there. I would recommend at some point, if you have too many authors, by too many I mean, hey, 3 more, right? You would want to think about version control. I'm a huge fan of version control. If you want to geek out and talk to me about that, I actually started my career in that, what's called configuration management. I use the IBM Rational toolset. So, okay, that's a bit about me. Oh, gosh. Anyway, now I'm all about Power BI. Great. So you can collaborate together. That's going to be step 1. Now, step 2 is really cool. I like it. And here you say members can only view Power BI content. So in one sense, you're using this app workspace as a distribution mechanism. So you can have, and you can add security groups and such. So you don't have to add people one by one. Let's see what else is there. Yep. So you can say members can view content, and then I'm going to add my friend John, whom I've been working with pretty closely, I should add. John Doe. That's him. And make him an admin. So he can edit content. He can edit the reports. He can create new reports, all of that stuff. He's an admin. But then I can add 100 users if I wanted to, again, through his security groups and stuff. My daughter's here. And yeah, that's going to be like, well, a much bigger sandbox now. A lot of people are there, but they only have view access. So that's the next level, and that's great. Now let's talk about the third level, where you don't necessarily, I mean, we're talking big scale. I don't know, 1,000 people organization, bigger. And you don't want to be in the business of like managing access. Maybe it's an open data set. Anybody in the company can access, right? And all you want to do is just do your thing, right? Focus on the model, and then let whoever wants to use it on their own accord. And yeah, you don't want to manage that part. That's where publishing the workspace comes in. So this one I've already published. Let me switch to another one, maybe this guy. So if you haven't published it, you would see this button, Publish App. So this, what you're doing is you create an app workspace, and it was kind of a sandbox, and you saw how you could add members to it, right? And that's how you were controlling it. But now you're saying, you know what? I'm just going to kind of publish it out there. Think of it as a marketplace. We're so used to marketplace now, right? The Google Play Store, iOS App Store. Think of it like that, except I don't think you can charge for this yet. Maybe that's a feature. Put that in ideas@powerbi.com, my friend. Hey, I'm going to charge $1 to everybody who's in my app workspace. So you can kind of edit the members here, but you want to say, hey, I just want to put it kind of in that store, So great. So you can kind of publish it, and I'll show you the options. Apparently, you can change this picture. We'll come back to that. But details, you put in some summary, content, and if you are from the olden days, as I am, my friend, I'm going to show my age. I've been around Power BI now. There were content packs where you could select what you want to include when you published. Not in this. So App Workspace is all or nothing. Either you publish it or you don't. So you're only going to put content which you want to be shared. If you don't want to share it in that App Workspace, remove it, please. All right, great. So you put everything in. And this one is tricky. I mean, you can choose specific content, but I'll show you how it works out. So this is just going to be their landing page. That's it. It's not like that's the only thing you have access to. Now, this one is tricky because it does give them a starting point, so they're not, but sometimes people fail to realize that they have access to everything. So that's it. And access, this is that who in the App Store is allowed to get it. So you can limit that. That I'm going to put in the App Store, but only my favorite peeps can get it. Or you can say entire organization. And notice it has a tip at the bottom. You can also kind of send them a URL later. So let's go back to a workspace that I've published, and I'm going to show you. So if I say update app, I'm back to the same one, and I change the color to my daughter's one of her favorite colors, violet. Yeah, I'm a primary color kind of guy, red, green, blue, so violet, I guess, purple maybe. And hey, look at that, my description. I'll let you read that. Content, again, this has got a ton of content, and again, it's all or nothing. You can't pick and choose. And this is the app landing page, the customer profitability dashboard. I can change that. I can say it's none. Access, this is the entire organization. So great. So this, you publish it, you put it out there, and now you're not really managing who's access. You kind of, yeah. So the way that works is they just go to consume it, right? And you can share the URLs, app URL, if you want to just send out the word to your own peeps. But generally, they would go to let me start that again. So anybody would go into the apps. By all means, this is the App Store, and say, hey, I want to get apps. And here, it's kind of interesting. You have other apps as well, but my organization apps are shown right here. So you're going to see everything you have access to. And yeah, you can look at that and say, get it now. And now you have access to the app. So this is just some other user. I'm using the same account, but this could be anybody in your organization, 1,000, 10,000, however big that is. And they can go in to kind of consume it. Now this is where the landing page comes in. So customer profitability, I had chosen as a landing page. So whenever somebody clicks on the app, this is what they see. Great. So you got to control that. But again, you're gonna have to teach the user that there's a lot more in here, and they can see that right here. Oops, in this area. So you can see there are 7 dashboards, 8 reports, an Excel workbook, 7 data sets. So I'm just gonna say view content list. Perfect. So you can open any of the dashboards, you can open any of the reports, and you can do more. And I love this part. So workbooks, and notice that there are actions. So if you click on it, it's just going to open that report. So customer profitability, it's going to open that report, but you go back to view content list. And again, this is not the author. This could be anybody of the thousands and thousands of users in the organization. And here, my favorite, I came from Excel. I still identify as an Excel user, and I love how Power BI and Excel kind of work together. So my favorite feature, analyze in Excel. Actually, I'm the one who submitted. I'm the one who advocated for it. I was so happy to see it. And oddly enough, yeah, so reports, and you can say kind of analyze in Excel. And, it just opens up in Excel. The first time it might ask you to log in using your Power BI credentials. But then essentially what you get is a pivot table as soon as it pops up, and yep, that's all I need, right? I'm pretty much free to build anything that I can in Excel. I have all the flexibility of Excel, and hey, Excel had its rough edges in the old world. Now they've been kind of smoothed out by Power BI. They work in tandem, but Excel is a great tool for what it does. So the scenarios where you need Excel, this is it, right? So it gives you back in Excel, and it's taking a while, so I'm going to switch back, but come back to it. But yeah, essentially you get a pivot table, and you can build any report you can. And of course, the beauty is that it's being powered by a single source of truth. It's coming from the same source. And again, going back to the security cache question, so if you go to your workspace, update app, you can control it, who has access. So instead of publishing to the entire organization, you can limit the access. So let's just recap. We saw kind of the poor man solution, which is file-based. So it's, you're using and sharing PBIX files, kind of like how you did XLSX files. I wouldn't recommend it, but it's a fair start. And you're sharing the file, and the security is however you would secure files. So you would only email it to limited people. You would put it on a file share which has limited access. You would put it up on a SharePoint online site which where access is restricted. You would do things like that. But really the better approach would be to kind of publish it using this button. And the typical route is powerbi.com, but you have the on-premise option of Power BI Report Server as well. And there, the first level of access is going to be where you control, let's go to my workspace, who you share it with, kind of like file sharing. So this is your Dropbox, your OneDrive, and you, wrong one, and you click to share and you control who has access. But then you have the app workspace option, which I showed and talked about. So, all right, my friends, hopefully that helped. If you have any questions, ask them now. And last time I asked for questions and I promptly hung up. I didn't realize that there was a delay. So I'll hang out a little bit. And while I'm waiting for that, I'm going to pull up our student group in Facebook, and let's see if there are any questions there I can address. All right, so Peter was asking about, I mean, he found his answer, but he was asking about, can we have county level mapping? So let's try, we have a map here, customer city, and this does a pretty decent job. And I have the customer city field. So again, the question is that how can I map a county level? And I'll just show you what Peter already found out was, is you go to your data set, customer, and let's say I do not have county information, but let's pretend I did. And the key is to go to modeling and go to data category. So you go to modeling, go to this, and of course you select the field first, and then you can choose and you can instruct Power BI that, hey, this is the state, province, place, county, or so forth. Sometimes it guesses it automatically. So let's see if one of these is already done. It's not, but yeah, so sometimes it can guess it automatically. You would come in and it will already be set. Then you don't need to set it. Otherwise, you can come in here and do that. Terrific. Let's see. If there anything else interesting. And again, if you have any questions, just ask in the chat box. If you're watching this on replay, use the comments. All right, great. So Brian had a question where we went back and forth, and he was talking about files from multiple folders. And that's pretty easy to do, and I love this option. So I'll get data more. You go to File, Folder. And what that lets you do is pick up, say, hey, go to this folder and just suck in all the files in that folder. I remember how I used to do this in the old Excel days. And gosh, it was painful. It was a lot of macro work and it was hard to update. This one is very elegant. If there are any new files dropped in the folder, they get picked up automatically. Now, but Brian's question was around, what if the headers in the file don't all match? And the discussion we had was, so let's look at an example. So let's say, oh, the pivot finally came up, connected to that, great. So let's say you have budget and maybe you have a different file for each month or each year, something like that, right? And your headers are somehow different. Maybe let's say subcategory in one of those places has a space, product name has a space, so different files have different headers. And how do you combine it? So my suggestion was, again, it depends on exactly what the assumptions are, is that let's say if we can safely assume that all the headers are in the same spot, they're just named differently, sub without a space, with a space, that kind of thing, product name versus maybe product, just product, things like that, but they represent the same thing, then what I typically do is I simply swap out the headers before I merge them. So I have a standard set of headers, and I remove the header, insert the one that I want, the name, how I want it to be finally called, and just suck that in. That works. All right, terrific. So yeah, again, if you have any questions, leave them in the comment box, and I'll catch you next time. Power on, my friends.